The drugstore about half time crawling or fooling around. And that's where I got my name. Ms. Hill named me Boogwarn around saying something about a booger, and she started naming me Boog. And I stayed here until 40, and I left and joined the Navy and stayed going 20 years, and I had to come back. I couldn't stay away that much. That was long enough.
Now, who were your parents?
My parents was Walter Warren, and my granddaddy was Wirt Warren. He was the sheriff and a tax assessor for years, right? And he owned the sawmill and grist mill and everything at Cornton. That's when Cornton was in full swing. And some of the things, I mean, we talk about what Millry is named after. It was named after this creek down here because they put a mill on it. And that mill was the cause of the Indians to leave this town too, because they put that mill down there and it dammed the creek up and they didn't like it. And they were talking about this railroad right here. Now the railroad, when they first got this railroad through here, they had what they call a turn basin here. They started right out here at this road and went clean out to where the bank is now. Then it turned and went back down there on the other side of where Mr. Fred Ware used to own that station there. Fred Abraham owns it now. And they would take the locomotive and carry it out there, switch it, and come back this way. Then they head any way they wanted to, go north. Yeah. Then they finally got the doodle bug in here. And
they took off the passion thing, man, long time they got
it out.
What was the doodle bug?
It was actually an old bus made into it had a little diesel engine in it, and it had put wheels on it and run it up and down there. It had one driver for it. And this highway out here, I can remember them saying that highway, and they built this highway originally. They built it with mules. They didn't have no equipment, no dogs or trucks and things like that. They had a bunch of horses and mules that pulled the scoops and everything. And they'd take them horses and turn them loose up here and tie the reins around them, and they would go all the way around over this way by the mill and back down. They had a place out of this Carpenter's where they had them, kept them overnight, and they'd go there every time. Millry's got a pretty good history. One time, they used to have one time a show came through here, and it had a big tent right out here, and several of the boys got to gambling with them boys up there, and then they'd taken all their money, and it made them mad. And at that time, they would have logs down here, loads of oak logs, and they'd put them on things, and they'd tie them down with big wire. That wire was, I believe, the best I can remember, it was almost a quarter-inch thick. It had big rolls of it, and they'd lay around. And then boys went down and got a roll of it and tied it to the tent out there. And when the train stopped here, they tied it to the train. Down the road it went.
They get anyone hurt?
No, nobody got hurt. They're talking about Millry. Millry is about 1/3 the size of it was when I was born around here.
It's shrunk.
It's shrunk up, and we're still doing it. But we still like it around here.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Look, I remember eating ice cream Sunday at your grandfather's drugstore.
That was my daddy.
Your daddy? Warren?
Yeah, right here. Yeah.
Anyway, it was a generous portion of ice cream in a dish with a syrup full of nuts.
Yeah.
On top of it, and the best was diarrhea.
That's what we need in Millry now, some good old hard ice cream.
We went to church, went to school in the Methodist church.
Because they really didn't even have a Baptist church. That Baptist church used to be used for all the churches.
Yeah.
We borrowed it, the Baptist borrowed it,
past the church up there on, sometimes
Back
on
on
both
Saturday.
sides of the road. And they load it up and take it out of here.
On the freight train.
And cross ties. And one time the Ku Klux Klan got in, and the man lived right over where Mr. Jones lived. He was Mr. Ed Davis, and he did kind of, he wanted to anyway, and he whooped the preacher up because he was talking to some woman, you know, in the that night, a couple nights after that, the Ku Klux Klan was going to give him a whipping. So all his friends from Cornton came over here and had them cross ties stacked. They stack them up, and they all out there. And when they came, they told him, said, Mr. Ed said, come on out here. We want to give you a whipping. He said, well, you're not going to give me a whipping. He said, we were coming in, and he said, he called somebody's name, and they was in a pile of cross ties. He called somebody else and somebody else, and he said, you got your guns? And we all got our shotgun, and the Ku Klux Klan left. That's about all I know.
About something that looks like these little trains they use in Switzerland and all that now. Little square front end on it and all, and it had
Has a cow catcher on the front.
a cow catcher, but it also had your mail in behind your cab.
That was a passenger train, and that was the doodle bug.
Yeah, big thing.
We still refer to that as a doodle bug.
Yeah, that's
Before then, they had like a school bus.
I've seen the picture, but it's like a big station wagon or a school bus.
The doodle bug had the cow catcher on the front and carried mail.
Yeah, it was like a big, like you said, like a school bus, but it still had a big cow catcher on the front.
I'm Charles Locher. I was born and raised in Millry, graduated Millry High School in 1936. And everybody just about told all I know. Except the freight train. Now, we had a freight train going through here at midnight. It'd be called a Lindbergh. And it would stop and get water down there, and that's where the hobos would either get off or get on and go on in the moped. And talking about Millry, is actually, this is the second time Millry's been incorporated. It was incorporated, and Mr. Frank Williamson was a mayor, and that was about 1924 or 26, somewhere along there. And water come through and washed the bridge out down there, and the town didn't have the money to rebuild the bridge, so they had to turn it back over to the county to build the bridge, and that's how come. And it was years later before they were voted to take it back in.
When did it become incorporated the second time? Does anyone remember?
It must have been about 1948, somewhere along in there.
Sorry, tell them about old fogey.
Yes, sir, and Uncle Frank, we all call him Uncle Frank because he was an old man, and he always wrote an article in Washington County News and signed it Old Fogey. And he'd have some good writing in there too. And I want to say something about Mr. Pearson while he was here. He come to the schoolhouse before he was ever elected superintendent of education. I reckon he was running at the time, and he said if he was ever elected, the boys would quit using black gum bats and wound up balls. And after he got to be superintendent of education, they give us baseball bats and balls every year till I finished high school.
Great.
Still went.
great. Now you straight forward.
Yeah.
Kick your limbs.
Yeah.
That's progress. Tell a year, the school, that first one graduated.
First graduating class was in 1929, and like they all said, when the elementary school is now was being built, part of the students went to school in the Methodist church, another part went to Baptist church, and I happened to be in the 5th or 6th grade then, I went to the Baptist church.
First graduation was Three Woods.
Yeah, 3 Woods.
And Gladys.
And Joe, Gladys, Sam.
Who was the principal there then?
I think the principal at that time must have been O.B. Mason.
No, he was Hope Crane.
Crane.
Mrs. Crane.
Yeah, Crane.
He stayed here a few years and then,
Mr. Crane, before he was a fellow by the name of Scarver.
yeah,
Mr. Scarver.
he was
Yeah, and Mr. Edgar Clemens was a teacher.
He taught out there. And then the second principal was, O.D. Mason.
Yeah,
I think he followed Mr. Crane, didn't he?
And, yeah, and O.D. Mason, brother Mason left here, and then, Mr. Bert Mercury stayed here 1 year, and then Mr. Champion came and stayed till, 1936, and then Mr. Green took over, and
Then you have a picture of Wade, one time was.
You had a man in between.
Wade.
Right.
What is his name? He had one in between.
you had Bert Mercury.
Bert Murphy.
Bert Murphy, that's what I said a while ago, and after he left, Mr. Champion come in, and Mr. Champion left in the spring after graduation in 36, and then Mr. Green come in started the fall of
Mr. Green had
37.
he had been coach at
36,
Charles.
yeah. And that's about, oh yeah, something else that a lot of people around here don't know either. The creek over here on the other side of Millry, it was dug by the slaves for a spillway for this for this creek down here. They built a dam there, and the water would get up so high when it would rain, they had to have opening there, and slaves and people all got together and dug it, and it goes on the other side of Millry, out on the other side of Millry.
Goes into Causton Creek.
It goes into Causton Creek, and that was a relief of spillway more than.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's about all I know.
Okay, I'm Sylvia Woods Curley, and I was born and raised just north of Millry. Lived here all my life except 1 year that I lived in Vicksburg, Mississippi. I was married to Woody Knight, and he was hurt in a sawmill accident in 1957 and passed away a week later and left me with 3 kids. So at the time I had never worked outside of home except to do substitute teaching. And the next year I was able to get the job as postmaster here. Right after Woody passed away, I took an examination for a rural carrier. And Charles Loper got the job as a rural carrier, and he went to work a week before I did. Bobby Ware took the test when we did, and because of the fact that I was a widow with 3 children, Bobby had made 99 on the test, and he had 5 points as a veteran. And so he wrote the Civil Service Commission and asked them if it was possible to give me his grade so that I could get the job as rural carrier. But then I found out in the meantime the postmaster job was coming open, and I started working on it because I decided, well, if Charles wanted those bad roads to go over, I'd let him have that, and I'd work inside. And I enjoyed working in the post office in Millry. I was here 34 years, and 2 years after I became postmaster, we moved from the old post office that was down here on the corner to the building that is there now. And the first postmaster at Millry was Mr. James Warwick, who was Mr. Grover Warwick's father. And then it was Mr. J.E. McLemore, and the post office at the time was on the side of the store down there that Mr. Kimbrough had. And Mr. McLemore ran that store for a while, and of course, I guess he was postmaster and had the store and the post office at the same time. And then Mr. Grover Warwick, and then I was postmaster longer than anybody that's been here as postmaster. My grandfather was Dr. Andrew Wood, who was tax collector, he was sheriff. At the time of the Chambliss hanging, I understand that he was the sheriff, and they tied the men all together, and he marched them. He rode horseback all the way to St. Stephen's, and he marched the men all tied together to St. Stephen's to put them in jail over there. And I don't know what else I know.
What offices have you held with the post office?
I've been real active in the National Association of Postmasters. I was Secretary-Treasurer for 5 years. I was editor of our little state paper for 4 years. I was Executive Vice President and then President of the state organization. I was National Historian for 4 years, and now as a retiree, I am National Secretary-Treasurer of my first of, well, it'll be a 2-year term, and then I'll be on the executive board 2 years, so it's actually a 4-year term. And I've enjoyed working with that, made a lot of friends all over the country. And like Bud says, this is still home, and everybody here is family for me. And we all feel a special kinship with people in Millry because we've just all just been like a big family. And
Who are your brothers and sisters?
Claire Wood Duncan was my older sister, and she was an artist, and she worked with the museum, and she wrote an Indian education program for the county, and she taught public school music, and she got her PhD from FSU in Tallahassee. And then I have another brother, Joe, who played ball at Millry and all, and he went on to the Army and was in the Army almost 30 years and retired as a colonel. And then Jim was my younger brother, and he's a safety engineer for construction companies. He's worked in a lot of different places too. And I have 3 children. One who is secretary for the Votech School in Bruton. She's married and has 4 grown children. And my second daughter got her PhD from University of Georgia, and has been an assistant principal in Georgia, but now she's gone back to being a librarian. And my son, Woody Knight, is a photographer and lives in Nashville, Tennessee. They all left Millry, but they all love to come back. And I have a grandson who, when he was little, I always told his mom, "Mom, when I grow up, I want to come to Millry and live because it's such a happy place." And I think we feel like that too. That's about all I know.
I'm Son Hill. I was born here, married, lived here all my life, except for 2 years when I was in service. I went to school here at Millry and finished high school in '44. My family roots are somewhat shallow in that my parents came here in 1919. My mother came here as a school teacher. My father came here to live with his sister, who was J.G. Kimmer's wife, who later became probate judge. And Mr. Kimmer came here to work for the old Patterson Eve Lumber Company, foreman, down the railroad track about a mile. And as I said, I don't know whether I was too smart to leave or not smart enough to go away. I've been here all my life, and I've enjoyed it. It's been a good place to live. But talking about childhood days, I remember walking to school. I lived down here on the side of the railroad, right by the water tank. We walked to school, and there was cross ties stacked from this road almost to the bend of the road up there going to school. Cross ties on one side and paperwood on the other side. I remember the boys, we'd get out of the broom house. These bats would come in and out picking up the gnats, and we'd swat them. Remember that, Boo? Yeah. We didn't have anything else to do, and that was our practice. We'd get out there and get the bats, and you'd be surprised how many we'd kill. Getting up with the boys out there, and they accidentally killed one, but there was a lot of And I can remember the train that would stop down there at the water tank, and the hobos would get off and come to our house. It was right across the railroad. Mother enjoyed feeding them. She stood out and talked with them, and of course we weren't afraid of them like you are now. We'd have them locked our house. We didn't have a key to the house. They'd come down the back door, and bump on the door, and she knew it would be one of the hobos. She'd sit out there on the back porch and talk to them. And if it came from Sumter County, she might have claimed kin to them. She thoroughly enjoyed the hobos. And of course, she enjoyed feeding them. She would either need something to eat, and she would get repeat people coming back maybe 2 weeks later, a month later, a year later. Say, "Oh yeah, you came here last year and had breakfast with us. Glad to see you, you know." But it was just a way of life then, because people didn't have a way to travel. They had to travel with some free transportation, so they couldn't afford other transportation. But I remember the town that they grew up in. And talking about the sidewalks put in here in the early 40s by the WPA. Remember that? Yeah. That was the first things I remember. Because I can remember what fun it was to get on a bicycle and come off from school and come down the sidewalk on a bicycle. Man, it's a smooth ride. We enjoyed it. And like I said, the first paved road was the highway that came through. Yeah, I remember that in the early 40s when it was paved. And
Go ahead.
in my profession, I was sawmiller. I've been in the sawmill business all my life. My first recollection of the sawmill business was in '36. My daddy had one of these little portable mills that was pulled by an old iron wheel tractor. Some of you probably remember how they were made. They had a power takeoff and it pulled a little saw. I can remember how good that sawdust smelled on that. My job was doing the sawdust out in the pit, where it falls there. I guess that sawdust got in the blood and never got out. Because I spent 40 years in the lumber business. And I enjoyed the mechanics of making lumber. It was interesting.
When did you build the mill down here?
Yes.
When?
When Millry Mill come in here in '85.
I mean, didn't you own it before that?
Yeah.
When did you build the sawmill?
The mill started in '47. Built the mill.
Your daddy started it?
Daddy and I started. Yeah, when I came out of school, I worked with him.
Son, y'all used to have a mill across the road too, didn't you?
Who's
From
that?
this Roof Seekers, there was a mill there when I was a kid. Some of y'all deal with it,
Who's the first name?
We had one there too.
Yeah, but we thought it was somebody else.
We had two mills.
First sawmill. There was a mill here first. Yeah, first sawmill.
That was Patterson Lumber Company, the first mill.
Patterson East.
Patterson, wasn't it? Patterson was the first, and I remember here.
Well, that's about a thing. And then it changed hands several times. Dr. Knight had it, and I had it, I have never in this one twice.
Dr. Knight sold his money.
And, yeah, he brought him in. And it's his hands with the mills right there, and it's been many years.
What year is it? Now, her parents have been here a lot longer than mine. They were born here.
Okay, and you retired in 1985,
Yes.
sold the mill.
Yes.
Tell us, Ms. Hill, about you.
Well, I'm Bonsil Armstrong Hill, and I've always lived here. And son and I have always gone to school together. We started in the first grade, and we graduated together. And he didn't say this, but I'm happy to say that we will soon be celebrating a golden anniversary in June. And we have 4 daughters, 8 grandsons, and 2 great-grandchildren. 8 grandchildren, 5 of the grandsons and 3 granddaughters, and 1 great-granddaughter and 1 great-grandson.
Name your daughters, please.
Donna, Carolyn, Ann, and Debbie. And I guess that's, you can tell us the history of them.
Ms. Noel, our police in town.
I just remember, we lived right there in the school, in the door, next to the doorstep. Just enough space for a car to pull up in the driveway. And Mother was so proud of our car that she would cover it up at night to keep the drippings from the oak tree. And Daddy had said, suppose I get a call and I got to leave in a hurry and I'll have to undress the car to get to go down, undress the car.
Your daddy was the town marshal?
At one time. I've forgotten how long he was town marshal.
We had one of the stories I remember was like he told us when we were kids. He had a bootlegger who was Fatty Longshore that lived above him. He couldn't ever catch Fatty, and he finally figured out the reason he couldn't is Fatty had a feist dog that would come in advance, and when he saw Mr. Ben, he'd go back to Fatty. And it took him quite a while, so he finally caught the dog and caught the bootlegger too.
Happened a long time ago, and they had a conductor every day on the passenger train, but this particular time, there was a substitute on there. It just come on Sunday. Well, one Sunday, he come through Millry, and it was fighting out there at the depot, and they was all pretty bloody in all accounts. Well, he come back the next Sunday, and the same two fellas was out there fighting, and they was all bloody, and he come in and asked Mr. Tom Tucker, had them men been fighting the whole week?
That was a regular Saturday night occasion around here.
A fight?
Fighting. Just for anything. They fight for everything. Several of them talked about that water tower down here. We'd go, a bunch of us, in the summertime, about every night, we'd go in there and go swimming.
I'm glad we wasn't drinking the water.
Strong home place is still standing and someone is living in it. And we used to call it the old home in the lane. But a lot of people still pass through there, but there is someone living in the old Armstrong home place. And I don't know how old the home is.
Where is it located?
It's up above the schoolhouse and that first road that you turn right, you probably pass by a lot.
The dirt road between
Uh-huh.
17 and...
A bus, I think the school bus goes through there now.
I've lived in Millry most all my life. I came from Yarbo, Alabama when I was 7 years old and started school at Millry, so I feel like I'm a new kid on the block. I'm just sitting here listening to all these people reminisce about the old times. But Millry's been my home, and I've been well interested in Millry. I served on the town council for 20 years prior to about 4 years ago, where I ran for mayor and was defeated, and I ran again this year and past year and was re-elected. So I'm starting my 21st year as a town council here in Millry, and Millry has always been my heart. And I can remember as a child how large Millry was, and I look back today and I seem like we are failing the people of town of Millry, that we don't have the businesses that we had at one time. But as you reminisce about old times, and you begin to look about old times, the way the Taylor generation got started here in Washington County was in 1868. My great-great-granddaddy was McLaughlin, and he was from South Carolina, and he killed a man over a woman. And when he did that, of course, he had to leave South Carolina, and so he went to Oklahoma and married a full-blooded Cherokee squaw. Her name was Caroline. And when he came back to this part of the country, he changed his name to Taylor. And this is where the Taylor generation got started now. And so I thought that was very interesting when we got to looking into your forefathers and everything, and we came across this, and I tell a lot of people I'm not even a Taylor, that I'm a McLaughlin. But anyway, I just really, as I sit here and listen today, I wish a lot of younger people was here today to just hear you people that's much older than I am talk about Millry, so that we'll know the history of Millry. I've learned a great deal about Millry here today, things I didn't know. And really, you know, I want to pass a lot of this on to my children, so years to come, they will be able to know what Millry was about. And like I say, it's just been a pleasure to me to live in Millry all these years. You know, you always have your ups and downs, but I was telling Jackie Sims just today that, you know, I saw a lot of people in Mobile would love to live in a small town like Millry, because we are kind of like one family. When one hurts, the other hurts. And I wouldn't take anything for living in Millry today. I don't know another place I'd rather live than right here today. Thank you.
Who was your parents?
My parents was Frank Taylor was my dad, and my mother is Issa Mae Phillips, and her mother was a carpenter. And my granddad Taylor was A.C. Taylor, and he was married to a Goldman. And like I said, we go back a long ways. Someone was talking earlier about the carpenters. I'm kin to the carpenters and everything, so we go back a long ways. I have two children. One lives in Waynesboro, one lives in Pascagoula, and their names are Kim Lofton and Kelby Taylor. And I'm married, at the present time, I'm married to Marge Broadhead Taylor. She's from England, and she and I live up here at the schoolhouse where I bought the land from Miss Hill, Bonnie's dad, in about 1965, and built a home there. And as Bonnie was sitting there talking about their residence, when I decided to build a home in Millry, I got to looking for a piece of property, and I could not find no property to build a house on. And I went to see Bonnie's daddy, Mr. Ben Armstrong, about buying a piece of property. So one night he called me, he said, Wayne, I want to sell you a piece of property to build your house. He said, I feel like that's why Millry is not growing like it should, because people will not turn loose land, but people want to build a house. And he said, that's the reason I'm going to let you have this piece of property so you can build your home here in Millry. And I've been there ever since.
That used to be out of the garden, right?
It did.
And you've headed up the United Way campaign.
I've headed
in
the
the
United
county.
Way campaign for Washington County. I've been a long executive from SEPA for 3 years, and it's been a great pleasure for me to be involved with the United Way. I've met a lot of great people. Mr. Howard Doherty, I never knew him. I think he's on the historical board, and I never known him till 3 years ago, and he and I has reminisced about a lot of old times, and I've come to realize that Washington County, not just Millry, but Washington County, as I stated one year, has the greatest people I ever met in my life, because they're the givingest folks that you ever see, and so it's been indeed a pleasure for me.
In the world I know of where you can sit around and talk all day long and somebody won't call you a bum.
Clark, who was a classmate of mine and Mr. Taylor's brother, Teddy, and I were all classmates. Mr. Martin, who was a former mayor. Raleigh was killed in the line of duty, and he was shot a couple of days before and actually died on the 30th of July, 1971. And when Raleigh died, he was probably no more than 24, 25 years old. He was born in 47, so that would have made him, 25 years old. And someone shot him in the line of duty, and he died. So I thought it was worthwhile to mention that. He has a son, David Raleigh, that lives in Citronelle.
There's been 2 policemen killed
Yeah,
in Millry while on duty.
and we had a road grader and killed him out here too. He was for the county road system. We had a lot of accidents when the train came to see us. This is my wife, Del Rosa, here, and we live.
And you're from Millry?
Yes.
Who were you before you met?
I was a Taylor, but I was from Choctaw County. I'm not kin to Wayne. My father was Cecil Taylor, we're from Choctaw County. My mother is Christine Beasley Taylor, and she owns the fabric shop here in town. She's had it for 30 years,
36 years?
just about.
30.
I always wasn't gonna marry anybody kin to the bees, she wasn't gonna marry no Millry. We got together sometime.
I'm Mary Blunt Reynolds, and I've lived here all my life, and I don't have much to say about myself, but I would like to talk about my dad, Dr. Blunt. And I do have some pictures of Millry when we had all these stores, and I have a picture of the car that the railroad officials rode in when they inspected the track. And behind it is the W.S. Knight Mercantile store that sat at this site. And maybe you'd like to see those. Maybe you saw the article in the county news a couple of weeks ago about my dad. And I happened to be looking through some old ledgers of his. I had decided it was time to get rid of some of them. And in the back, I found those 2 articles about the Academy at Healing Springs and then the old Chalkhill Church. And I was talking with Sherry, and she said she'd like to run it in the paper, so she did. But I have it in Dad's handwriting. And I guess the only error that I found in the paper article was that he assisted in the delivery of over 5,000 babies instead of 500. So he was quite an idol of mine. And, our home place was right across the railroad over here. And I was told when I was a child that was once the hangout for the Copeland game. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, but I don't even know who the Copeland gang was, but at one time they did live there. And I worked with Dad for several years and always lived here, except 5 or 6 years I was in Baldwin County. And this is home, and it's a great place to come back to.
Do you have children?
I have 3 children, 1 son and 2 daughters.
What's their names?
My youngest daughter is Lita Pritchett, and she's secretary for Bobby Cady, the district attorney. And Gail Truelove lives in Columbus, Georgia. She just left this morning. And my son, Jim Wright, lives down at Peavy's Landing. And you want to know where the greatest place in the world is, just talk to him and he'll tell you it's down on the river. And I have 2 grandchildren, Corey and Leslie, and they're both juniors in college. Leslie's at SMU and Corey's at Auburn. And I'm real proud of them.
This person too, I was looking for some property to build an office and to locate an insurance business in Millry, which hadn't been here since Emmett Wood was here. And Miss Mary was so kind, she said, well, I don't want to sell it, but Millry won't ever grow if we don't do something like this. And so she sold me the property, and I want to say I'm so gracious. And I thought that was a greater act than keeping something that was family treasure. I always cherish her.
See the
It's
other
the old
sto-
post office?
This is the post office. This was Kimber's store over here.
Is this Main Street? Or
Yeah, that's Main Street.
Millry, and this, what year do you think this was taken?
Sylvia, when did y'all go in the new post office?
61, so that's probably in the early 50s, late
Early
40s.
50s. I don't think that street's closed. It's Mercantile, but it sat on this site right here.
Dr. Blunt was still practicing medicine, and he and I had to sit around and talk a little bit. And one of the things that I remember was the fact that if he had a patient with appendicitis, he would sometimes go out and flag the train down. They'd ride to Mobile to get a surgeon to do an appendectomy for him. But the other story tells a whole lot more than that. Dr. Blunt told me that when his first wife was expecting a baby, it must have been before the time they had blood pressure cuffs and all this, and he knew that she was not doing very well, and he went in one evening and lit the lights. And in a little bit, his wife called him and said, "Jim, light the lights." And he realized that she had had what we call eclampsia and was blind, and couldn't see the lights that he'd written, and she died. I think the most important thing to remember is that people like Dr. Blunt, who were out in the country taking care of a lot of people, did an extremely good job. And Dr. Blunt, when I came in 1961, we became good friends, and contrary to many vocations, he wasn't jealous of us being in Chatham, and we could always tell, even later, we could tell when Dr. Blunt was in his office because our practice would be low that afternoon.
No.
We always tell without asking anybody whether Dr. Blunt felt like working or not.
Oh.
And we had the privilege of taking care of him finally and his wife too.
When did he quit practicing?
Mary, do you remember?
He died in 71, and he'd been retired.
Probably until 67.
67. Well, thank you, Dr. Patrick.
One time in my life, until I was 22 years old, first doctor I was really ever needed or ever went to was when I was pregnant with my first child in 1946. But I was sick, and Dr. Blunt came up to Millry, and he mixed up some whiskey and some hot water, and he told me to drink it. And I finally got it down, and then of course I broke out with measles. That was So I have a thing that I say, the only drink I ever had, but Dr. Blunt gave it to me.
First thing I remember about Dr. Blunt was I have a sister that is 7 years younger than I am. And she was born in a little clinic right here on the corner behind where Mayor Dermott has his shop there. And this was his office, I believe. And my mother came up and spent the night there. And my sister was born up in... It was 4 you weren't
Oh.
I delivered into the 4th generation, and there's a picture with the little house there. But I would like to say about, you know, how we're so crime conscious now, and all of us lock up everything. But when I was a child at home, we never locked the door. And if somebody needed Daddy in the night and they couldn't wake him up, they'd just come in the house and come down the hall to his bedroom. Hey, Doc, I need you. You know, and nobody thought anything about it. It was just the way we lived.
Then I remember Dr. Blunt. Marion had a younger sister, Tessie, who was about my age, and we were good friends. But Mrs. Blunt taught Mother music for how long I don't remember, but we used to come once a week, and we always came on Tuesday afternoon. And the first time I remember coming, the cook who was working for the Blunts had some sweet potatoes in the oven, and I could smell them, and oh, they smelled so good. And I finally got around to saying something to Tessie about, I sure did wish I had one of those sweet potatoes. So she went in the kitchen and got us one each. So from then on, every Tuesday afternoon when Mother came for her music lesson, there were hot baked sweet potatoes for us to eat, and they were delicious.
And I had a boy right there, and that thing was all swelled up, and he said, come on in here, I won't take care of that. He cut it and lanced it. When he got through, I said, how much owe you? He said, I've always heard them things worth $5 to your system when you got one. And if it's worth that much to you, it's worth that much to me, so we're even. Him and I was sitting on that Dr. Nice old store there one day talking. I had a knife and he had a knife. He says, I bet you my knife will cut somewhere yours won't. And I didn't believe it, so I said, I don't believe it. He said, yes, so let's see your knife. So he take his knife and cut on my handle. He said, now see, can you cut on your knife? Your handle, your knife. He was a good bird hunter. He loved that bird hunter.
Oh.
Wayne,
Tell us who you are.
I'm Louise Hoffman, Anderson Hoffman. The Anderson family came here in about 1907, and when my grandfather came, he bought the home that's what we call the Etta Anderson home, that's about 3 miles west of Millry. And my daddy was just a young man then, and he went to school at the Healing Springs Academy, and the younger sisters too. But Daddy went to Gilbertown and lived and had a business, and then they decided they would move back to Millry. And he met my mother in Gilbertown, and they came back here and lived, and my daddy had a livery stable, and he carried the people from the Healing Springs Hotel back and forth to Buckatoma to get on the train over there because they were coming from all places to come to the spring.
How long would that take?
I have no idea, but I still, there's so many things I remember. But my dad, I don't think he kept the livery stable, too very long, but I thought it was interesting that he used to take the people from the hotel. And then he had a grist mill here a long time ago too in town. But my dad farmed, I wouldn't have dared said I lived at Millry when I was growing up because I lived at Healing Springs. And really we lived out in the woods from Healing Springs. My daddy went there and started buying land and had enough lumber cut and built a 2-room house. And he and my mother lived in a 2-room house. I don't know. And Daddy would keep buying more land and keep buying, and he wound up to be one of the larger farmers in the county. And when ML was talking here, I well remember when ML and them moved to our place. I guess I was maybe 5 or 6, but we had about 5 families farming for us then, and they were just real outstanding. But we would come to Millry every Saturday afternoon. That was a big occasion. And we always were given money to spend. And we had it all planned what we were going to spend at Mr. Kimber's store. And that was such a great occasion. And you just visited everybody and saw everybody. And I guess I started to school in the new building, the grade school. I guess my first year of school, I went in there when it was brand new, and it was quite an experience. And my father was a trustee of the school as long as I was ever in school. And I can remember during the time when we had what we call supplement school, that if you didn't, you had to pay a fee to finish out the year. And my dad, money was just so, you just didn't have any money.
This was during the 30s?
Yes.
1930s.
And the people on the place, he would have them cut wood. They would cut the light wood and the other wood to be used in the stoves, and that paid our tuition. And I asked my dad one time, I said, "Dad, what did you do for money when cotton wasn't worth anything and you couldn't, there was no market for any cows or hogs or anything like that? Where did you get money from for us to live on?" He said, "Well, do you remember the trees that were chipped and the turpentine that was dipped?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, that's where that I got my cash money from, because cotton and all wasn't worth." And I didn't realize what a wonderful experience it was to grow up on a farm until I got older. And then we would go to Healing Springs every Sunday afternoon. And we would visit with the people that were there to drink the water, and just made the most friends ever. And that was just an exciting time for us growing up. And I thought all kids were having that good a time. And I didn't realize that until I got older either. But we did such simple things, and we had such a happy.
When did you finish school at Millry?
In 1941. And Mr. Pearson signed all my certificates down through the years, and he's been a good friend. It's so special.
And then you worked in the insurance business?
Yes, I moved to Mobile in 41, and then I moved back here in 71, and started working for Alpha here. I worked in Mobile before that. But I enjoyed being back. Such good friends, good neighbors.
It's already been referred to the fact that he loved bird hunting. And when he was quite old, right in the last year or two of his life, he and his son Robert came down to my dad's house. And Dr. Blunt had sort of got an idea that if he just had an old gun, an L.C. Smith double barrel gun, that he loved to hunt with back as a younger man, that somehow he would be able to, that would sort of bring back youth a bit, and he'd be able to go bird hunting again. I doubt seriously if he ever used that gun. But
what was your daddy's name?
Fritz Shell. And Dad let Dr. Blunt have that L.C. Smith double barrel, because he thought so much of it. You know about the gun?
The telephone, you had to ring the telephone. But when we were just real young coming up, we had the telephone there.
And when we got sick, we weren't brought to the doctor's office. We were bathed and put to bed, and then they rang Dr. Blunt, and Dr. Blunt came to see us. And that was always like a picnic when Dr. Blunt came. He was always so jolly. And he always loved me as long as he ever saw me, and would pet me and would say, "This is that girl that ruined my Christmas dinner," because I was born on Christmas Day. Well, we had a train that came south and then would go north. No, that went north and then went south. My grandfather used to carry the mail from the Millry post office to Healing Springs twice a day on a buggy, and he had this big red mare, and they would put the mail in the buggy, and he would start out, and he immediately went to sleep. And the horse she just went on. As she hear a car, she just got over. And I know you remember Sadie. It was just.
This is the Brown House in Millry. This is January the 18th, 1998. The Washington County Historical Society meeting.
All right, my name is Wiley Middleton, and I am the grandnephew of Henry Euphrates Brown, and my grandma would have been Henry Euphrates Brown's sister, and my mother was her daughter, Sarah Brown Blunt. And today I'm going to talk to you a little about the history of the Brown House. The Brown House, located across from the Millry Town Hall, was the home of Henry Euphrates, known as Uncle Fate to us, and Jessie Loper Brown. The house was built by Jessie's brother, John Loper, around the late 1880s to the early 1890s, and is approximately 108 years old today. The house was the first house in Millry to have electric lights. They were battery operated. Through the years, the house served mainly as a home for the Brown children of Fate and Jessie, but it also was a boarding house where the tired railroad employees could rest and have a home-cooked meal on their way to and from Mobile. That means they would stop here on their way back to their destination, and they would play cards and so forth like that, just to pass the time away while they rested. Later on, it served as the first office of the Millry Telephone Company. Now, Uncle Fate's wife, Jessie, formerly operated a switchboard in this home. And after the Brown's death, the house was donated to the town of Millry by their children, Osborne Brown, Melvin Brown, and Jessie King. The house, which is still sound structurally, is to be used as a meeting place for the senior citizens of the town to gather and have their meals and activities, and also as a meeting place for people like you today, dignitaries. The house, which is still sound, has a great historic value to all who behold its presence. And I would like to comment a little bit. That's all I had on the history here. But the house is at present a senior center. And the members of the community have contributed a lot to this house to see that it is still standing as a great historic structure for the community and the county of Washington County.
Y'all, the town got a grant, is that right, to help with the restoration of the house?
Yes, ma'am.
And then
That's,
a lot of citizens,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
know from what I've heard, that a lot of the citizens here in Millry helped with the work and things like that.
Grant from where? From the city?
From the state.
From the state of Alabama.
Yes,
Through
ma'am.
the State Historic
That's
Preservation.
correct.
All right.
That's correct.
This is what the society has wanted and talked about doing, and we've started listing these old homes. The state started several years ago, and they never completed Washington County. The girl that was doing it lost her job, and they never assigned anybody else to it. So we're attempting to complete that job and get these old homes listed on the State Historic Register. We've done several, I've put them in quarterlies, and we've gotten information on several, but there's still many more in the county that we have not done anything on yet. So if any of you know of a place, we're starting with homes about 90 years old, or even maybe if they are in need of something being done, or to the point they might be torn down or anything like that, we'll list them and get the information, if they're not 90 years old. But somewhere from 80 to 90 to 100 years old. We need to get them. We've lost a lot of old homes in the county that we never got on the list, that have been lost since the girl started it back in the 80s and never completed it. We've lost several places.
Are you asking about homes that are unoccupied?
I'll put the name down, and I need the name, the location, and the present owner so we can contact them and get the history. And some of you know the history and can supply us with the history.
Doris, have you got Doc Sullivan's father's house?
We have some history on it, but we need to go take pictures of it.
Yeah.
Now,
Because my, Jessie was my mother's father's sister, so mother and husband were first cousins. So I spent a lot of time up here, because we used to bring corn up and have it ground here at a grist mill. You remember everybody talking about that?
Yes, I need all the information you can give me on that.
They used to have a grist mill, and we did used to come. So I spent a lot of time up here with Unfaith, knew him real well, and we always enjoyed coming to Unfaith house.
I think it's been written now, on account of hard work of Mr. Daniels now on the National Register. I think that's been mentioned already. But we are mighty proud of that.
what was the other Armstrong house?
And Florence.
I assume it was the Brown children.
That got it, the
Yes, sir, but
registration
they
started.
donated it to the town.
Right back here.
This
I
is,
think I was the one that suggested that to the family.
Kate, how did it start, the registration of it?
I suggested to the family and talked to them
Give them your name on
about,
here.
I am Lois Osborne's wife. And I was the one that suggested that we do this, that we donate it.
Okay.
How
Tied
was I supposed to say
You're
that?
the daughter-in-law of Fate.
Yeah, I'm the wife of Osborne, the son of Mr. Fate and Jessie Brown.
So that baby doing all right?